Okay. Tried this on D Live, but wasn't working to my satisfaction. So we do have an onion here, and we are going to eat it. Just a very relaxed onion eating for my benefit, for my health. It did work. Well, you say that, but I don't know that it did. Yeah, we're just eating onions. Shallots. I don't know. I haven't had shallots. I haven't eaten the shallots. You talked about how you're such an individualist. Yeah, that's true. The thing is, as I was there and I was eating that onion, I was thinking to myself, because the whole thing about eating an onion is you can't really talk while you're eating the onion. I mean, the rate of speech, the rate of ideas is very slow. I tried eating an onion a few weeks ago with some friends. I don't know how you ate the whole thing. Well, I'm a special individual. This is terrible for your gut. It's not true. Show me the data. Show me the science. Point to me in the literature that says eating an onion is bad. People eat spicy foods all the time. This is just an onion. There's literally nothing wrong with it. I mean, if I die, so be it. I will be a martyr for the onion gods. It just is what it is. If I have to go down because of an onion, then that's okay. Forgot his helmet. Was that like is that an insult where it's like it's supposed to be like special needs people have to wear a helmet to protect themselves from themselves? Okay. I hear what you're saying. I hear that's that's an old one. I don't think that's really popular anymore. How does this keep vampiric forces away? Well, it keeps pretty much everyone away, including vampires. So it's a very safe way to go. National identity kind of cringe. Well, what I was saying is that anytime you have an identity, it's a redistribution of the executive function. Identities, I mean, anytime you have a group, you have a hierarchy. There is no such thing as anarchism, right? In terms of social groups, there is always some direction to the group. And if we think about like different levels of egalitarianism, like theoretically, if we're on a desert island, say this about any category. Well, I could hear that argument, but let me finish this one first. If we're on a desert island and I say we the group will not survive if we don't get food. We the group, we have to build a shelter. And I say, and someone says, who are you to do, they start questioning this. I say, well, look, it is in the interests of the group that we do X, Y, and Z, because none of us are going to have a good chance for survival if we don't all sort of band together and purposefully direct our energies toward our group interests. And in these situations, it's pretty clear cut that yes, in fact, the interests of the group and the interests of the individual are very much convergent. I mean, instead of the desert island scenario, We could think about Northern Europe 10,000 years ago. We under liberalism is a cryptid. Well, I think there's degrees of it. So I'm showing an example where collectivism makes sense and collective identities make sense. And on a genetic level, if you live in the ancient Tigris, Euphrates River Valley, maybe, and there's a lot of wealth going around. There's a big slave trade. There's all kinds of merchants coming from Asia and Africa and Europe or whatever. It's a big hub of international trade. You're building what were they building back then? The Tower of Babel. And all this is happening. And you're like, look, all these people are coming in and they have different interests. And so you've got these different tribal groups, you've got different identities of people. So it's a very real thing to say in that situation of like, or a family, right? A family can say, look, we as a family have an interest. And we need to all fight together as a family to defend our family interests. So there are obviously cases in which it makes sense to talk about groups and to say that, you know, we are this collective, we are this identity. I'm going to step to the side. Just give me a second here. But I'll keep talking. There's collectives. There's groups. The builders of Babel spoke the same Babel. That's true. They all spoke the same Babel. But the point of the Tower of Babel is that God basically confuses the nations. And implicit within that story, there's already a concept. The builders of Babel were not all of the same nations. It was a multinational project where they all spoke the same language. So Yahweh comes, and he confuses the nations, and he makes them all speak different languages. So we're talking about concept of groups. Groups are useful. Collectives and collective identities are useful in certain situations. But in other situations, Yahweh is an anarchist. I don't know that I would say that. I would say that he is like a totalitarian, because he saw the peoples of the earth uniting as one under globalism and threatening his power. And so he decided to kick them back a notch. But I'm just saying, the idea of having a group or a group identity or thinking as a group think makes sense. We can look at situations in which you have to act as a group. When you're in a survival situation, you're talking about your family, your friend group. And so, according to the Bible, diversity is a force that can challenge God. I don't know if I would say diversity was the problem there. I think the problem was unification. But anyway, we're talking about groups. When we think about a sports team, a scholastic sports team, we are looking at a situation where the group think is being brought out. Groupthink is being harnessed. It's being agitated. All the people, they're cheering for their school, for their team. Now, what are the consequences? the consequences are, I don't know. It's a simulation in the same way that it's like, I understand why human beings are attracted to other human beings. I understand that human beings look at other human beings and say, hey, we could reproduce. I mean, they're not thinking that consciously, but instinctually, that they're implicitly the origin of the instinct is we could reproduce. And then you have all of these, under postmodernism, you could say, you have all these aspects of sexuality which are anti-reproduction. So it's, the question is like, you took some instinct and you inflame the instinct itself, but you divorce it from its purpose. Zoom in a little bit. Zoom in a little bit more. Just a couple more times. Okay. It's not just about power, though, also about tradition, the intergenerational transmission of ideas, which is easier to do if you establish a group and an identity. To a large extent, the most important groups are not chosen. Indeed, family group is essential for survival in evolutionary history. It is pre-cerebral, and phrasing it like a choice is odd. Reproduction is a consequence. So David the Dower has it opposite. He thinks that reproduction is a consequence of an instinct, but I think the instinct is a consequence of reproduction itself. I think you sort of have it backwards. That it's the reproductive thing in itself that leads to the arrival of the instinct in like a Lamarckian sense, and then it perpetuates itself through Darwinism. That's how I think about it. Reproduction comes first. You can't have the instinct without reproductions first. Mystery of the Onion, Initiation and Magic and the Quest for Spirit. Is that like a Evola title or something? I don't know what that is a reference to, but it's probably a better title than Man Eats Onion, right? It is. The organisms without this instinct died of selection bias. I don't know what that is. Reproduction is first. It makes the desire for reproduction. Yes, correct. Excellent. So we have an instinct. As much as we have an instinct to engage in romance, we have this instinct for intimacy. We have this instinct for groupthink, for collectivization, for collective identity. We're all Christians. We're all Americans. We're going to war with Iran. They're the bad guys. We're the good guys. Friend-enemy distinction. We have a desire for all this. Question is, you know, as much as we can say all these things are necessary and beneficial in our evolutionary history, what are they doing right here, right now? We reproduce, it increases the size of a group. So the group is prior to reproduction. That's just not true. I don't see how you can possibly believe that prior to the concept of reproduction, we have a group going on. That's not the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve are not a group that you could say it's a group of two people. If that's how you want to define a group, then that's not how I'm using the term group. I'm using the term in a Schmittian sense as a distinction within humanity, or something as opposed to something else, Adam and Eve were not opposed. I mean, you could say, I guess they were opposed to God. It just seems very counterintuitive. Reproduction has to exist before. I mean, you could say production, creation has to come before Adam and Eve. So I just don't see, you're definitely not going to get there through Darwinian evolution. You're definitely not going to get there through materialism. What's your spiritual argument that somehow groups exist prior to reproduction? Maybe you could say, well, Adam and Eve were created without sex. You could make that argument. But sex then exists prior to human groups. How do we get around this? I always try to argue for people's arguments. I always let people make silly arguments. I try to figure out how would I possibly justify them. It's just my reaction. Is your wall a floor? The truth is, I'm sort of defying gravity right now. The truth is, I'm sort of hovering above the floor right now. Everything's topsy-turvy. I have like the whole camera setup is floating above me. Gravity works better in this direction. Let's see, onions. Some people like the onions. Some people don't like them. Look, the title of the stream is Man Eats an Onion. If you don't like watching a man eat an onion, it might not be the stream for you. I'm just putting that out there. I'm just trying to do some honesty in advertising. This is a man eating an onion. There's no ape that exists apart from a society. The human phenotype is necessarily social grouped. Yeah. Yeah, we can't ungroup ourselves. But I guess I'm deconstructing groupness in an effort to question and to move toward a rigorous definition of what groups should we ascribe ourselves within or inscribe ourselves within as a choice, because we do have, some degree of choice here. Or if we don't, we have to recognize like the choices that we don't have. But maybe I'm deluded. Maybe I'm deluded in thinking that you can choose whatever group you want to be a part of. And so we have to understand what groups we're a part of. Truly, what are the meaningful categorizations of human sociality? Because I think being a sports fan is not a meaningful category. I mean, it tells me a lot about you if you call yourself a sports fan, but I don't think in itself being a sports fan contains within it some kind of useful process. Like you could make the argument that by identifying as American Christians, we are becoming part of the conversation. And if we reject these labels, then we're essentially putting ourselves on the fringes, on the periphery, and we are divesting ourselves of power, and we're making the world a worse place by becoming passive and by entrapping ourselves in simulations and fantasies of unreality. But I think that, like sports says that as well. So I'm just opening up the conversation, saying that obviously some group identifications are bad. Like if I identify as an anti-American, anti-Christian, that's clearly different from identifying as an American Christian. If I say, Europe is better than America, like you used to have the left say, even 10 or 20 years ago, there's that Gavin McInnes quote where there's this lady, and I remember she has like pistol tattoos or rose tattoos under her clavicles or something. And she's like, well, I think I support Bernie Sanders because he like supports the Scandinavian system, like Scandinavian socialism. You just look at Scandinavia and they're like, they have a pretty much better system than we do. And Gavin says something pretty predictable. And at the time, everyone thought it was amazing. I remember when people liked Gavin. But there's this aspect within the American upper class or upper class wannabes people who are in the middle class who wish they were upper class will say things like, I hate Americans, I hate sports, I wish we were more like Europe. So that's a kind of an identity. Is that a good identity? Is that a bad identity? We got to figure this out. We really got to figure this out. What does it mean? What does the future hold? And what is it, like there's been all this confusion about national populism, civic nationalism, liberal nationalism, inclusive nationalism. A real American is anti-racist. Real Americans are tolerant. Real Americans, the most important thing about being American is our Constitution. The most important thing is our values. Those arguments have permeated the popular consciousness. So it's hard when someone's arguing from a position of ideas versus a position of practicalities, arguing about definitions of what things should be etymologically, but look at the Constitution, but look at this and that. And then you've got people who are dealing with the pragmatic realities of the connotations of the word as it is popularly defined. And then you have the people who go back even further and will say, well, no, actually, the founding fathers were liberals. And so America was always about diversity. So it's like you just have a whole bunch of arguments. But I'm trying to ask ourselves, what certainties can we root ourselves in? Where can we say, like, because I feel like you start from one axiom or another and you just try to prove your axiom. You just try to marshal evidence to prove your axiom. But what axioms should we base ourselves in? Should we base ourselves in, like, we should just understand that certain words have certain meanings that we don't have authority over. We don't have autonomous authority over language. Like, the language is what it is. Like, America just means America. And just because you'd like it to mean something different, or you wish it were closer to the original meaning, or maybe you think the original meaning was bad or whatever. I mean, there are people who will say that the American flag is a racist symbol. And then there are other people who will be like, George Washington was a cultural Marxist, Freemason. So the question is, like, who is right? But do we even care about that discussion? Do we even care? Like, maybe it's historically interesting, but are we going to get anywhere with that? Are we going to move the conversation forward? And what is our strategy? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to accomplish a dialogue with the mainstream? Are we trying to accomplish a dialogue in the fringes? Are we trying to create our own worldview here? I don't know. Ascetic tradition: place onion in front of pontificating man, which he must consume for the length of his dialogues. The longer the dialogue, the more parts he must eat and be punished with. You could say that. You could say the mechanics for groups to manifest pre-existed. Okay. Well, either spiritual or evolutionary, the question is related to the purpose of life. Reproduction and increasing group size are both downstream from gene reproduction. It's not increasing group size, though, is it? It's not necessarily increasing group size. I don't know if it's increasing group size. I mean, maybe it's like a semantic debate we've got going on here, increasing group size versus something else. Maybe it's not the most important thing. Just like prime numbers are already out there but not yet discovered. Does the bottle ever stop tasting like kombucha? Yeah, after a few refills. Or bringing kingdom of heaven to earth. Should be eating a red onion. Supposedly they have more antioxidants, but they are They are more spicy. Don't tell me what onions oh, you should be eating a red onion. Yeah, I'd like to see you eat a white onion. And I have eaten a red onion before, but it's a lot tougher. So, you know, we ate an onion a couple weeks ago, or however long that was. It feels like ages. It feels like months or years. But we ate an onion. It's the second streaming onion. We got to build up our immunity to it. And maybe we move on to the red onion eventually. But I'll tell you, this is so much easier than it was last time. The body is an amazing... I'm evolving. I'm growing. I'm like a Pokemon. I'm like shifting back and forth between different forms. I'm vibrating right now. Which part? Hopefully it's that part. Yeah, that part. The onion is very anti-apple, and consuming, we reclaim the purity of Eden. Very Kabbalistic. You could say that. See, the fruit of the Garden of Eden is sweet, and it's tempting. Adam and Eve, well, particularly Eve. Eve is thirsty for that fruit. She's like, oh, serpent, that fruit is just so tasty. But the onion's the opposite. You don't look at an onion and your mouth doesn't start watering. You look at the onion and you're like, gross. It's formidable, it's scary, it's daunting. And yet we embrace the onion. Like Nietzsche, we stare into the abyss of the onion stares back. You know, it is a spiritual. Yes, of course, my brother. Of course. Normal people can't choose and are socialized into a group. The fact that I'm a groupless autist or that I reject my group makes it so that I can possibly choose one. Yeah. Well, that's true. That's absolutely true. But you still haven't said how identity or groups really differ from any other kind of categorization. Okay. Well, to me, there is an aspect of groupness, like you could say, what's a physical characteristic that's not controversial? I have a large nose. I am part of the large nose group. That wasn't, I was trying to think of something that would be like just something that would be very, you can't do it. You can't do it. When you've got an audience full of phrenologists and physiognomists, you can't do it. Okay, I have ears that don't stick out. Is that better? I'm part of the slender ear group. Is that better? Okay, I'm part of the slender ear group. And that's just something, I mean, I could get plastic surgery and I could make my ears stick out like Dumbo, but I'm part of the slender ear group, right? I was just born into that group. That's just who I am. So there's that type of group. Now, is that important? It kind of is, actually. Because when you look at studies, people choose their friends based on like the width of your wrist. These types of things, there's a correlation between the width of the wrist of different peoples and the likelihood that they will become good friends and be best friends and things like that. So things like the slender ears are probably more important than we give it credit for. But in terms of abstract groups, like there are physical groups, and we can't change who we are physically unless we die and reincarnate. But then there are abstract groups like American or Christian. That, I mean, the whole thing about Christianity is you choose it. Christ doesn't choose, unless you're a Calvinist, then you believe Christ chose you. But pretty much every other Christian group says you have to choose to follow Jesus. He can't force you. So other categorizations, red and green. Well, red and green, it's the physical wavelength. It's not really a choice. There's no free will necessarily, unless we get down to the quantum level and we start talking about quantum free will or the free will of quantum particles and string theory and quantum vibrations. But for working within a semi-Newtonian model, most categorizations, if I say that's tall, that's short, that's red, that's green, most categorizations have to do with physical immutabilities that are causally determined. There's no free will involved. There's no element of choice. Whereas ontologically, something like Christianity professes to be a choice. Even the state of being an American, there's that phrase, love it or leave it. So you can be a determinist. I'm less interested maybe in the determinism versus free will debate. I'm more interested in like the perception of like, very clearly, most categories that we think about are descriptive, declarative, objective categories. It's slow or it's fast. They're all relative. Still, this train is slower, this train is faster, this train is bigger, this train is smaller, this train is red, this train is green. These are things that we can sort of test objectively. And in any case, we don't say that, oh, well, the train was feeling red today, so it became red. No, there was a deterministic causal chain that led to the train being painted red. Maybe you could say, well, whose choice was that? Some humans made the choice, and therefore there was a free will involved. But the decision of categorization is not contained within the object itself. The train itself doesn't say, I think I want to be red. No, the train is subject to the free will of the painters who paint the train red. Whereas we are interesting because as objects, and I'm putting that in air quotes, but the idea that we can choose what category to put ourselves in is a very interesting idea to me. I guess identities typically require, scroll up here, more inherent qualities or more work as opposed to an organization or a ball team, but then again, maybe not. Identities. Well, being part of a football team can be an identity. Being part of an organization can be part of your identity. He's American. He's trying to formulate something cerebral that frees him from this identity he has grown to desire to reject. Okay, so we got a little bit of psychoanalysis going on. Yes, this is very cerebral. I mean, I'm leaving the question open of whether we should embrace the American, whether Americans should embrace the, maybe Europeans should become American too. Just American global hegemony. Maybe we should all be American. But I definitely have had at times like this idea, oh, Scandinavia is better, or, you know, America is bad in this respect. I've certainly had that, and I think that's part of my, you know, liberal upbringing, where it's like liberals believe that espousing those views will make them appear upper class, and so they parrot those kind of views. In the 2009 Wii game Mad World, the item that restores your character to full health is a whole raw onion. That should be a meme. I want to see that in meme form. I want to see a video. I want to see a video documentary. Eventually, I want to see a full 2-hour length documentary on the symbology of onions in popular culture, the meaning behind it. I want to see like a full Glenn Beck conspiracy level, like connecting the dots, like how George Soros has corrupted the minds of the youth with the onions or something. Kennetheus punished by having his onion regrow every time he finishes eating it. Do you smoke weed? No, I do not smoke weed. Red onion, then you move into garlic. Yeah, I would say that's the hierarchy. What is a Pokemon? Well, a Pokemon is derived from an amalgamation of two words, pocket and monster. So Pokemon is one of these Japanese words that's derived from English, like derishasu. What is derishasu? Derishasu is delicious. That is a Japanese word that they just take an English word and they Japanify it, Nipponify it. So, derishasu, Pokemon. Pokemon. So, pocket monster. That is what a Pokemon is. So, the Pokemon exists within a kind of hyperspace. The pocket monster. The Pokeballs themselves, if you watch the documentary series Pokemon, they'll show you that the Pokemaster has these Pokeballs. The Pokeballs, as the Pokemaster carries the Pokeballs, they're quite small. They are like little seeds. When the Pokemaster retrieves his Pokeballs, all of a sudden the Pokeballs increase in size. They increase from like a small little nut, and then they increase like to the size of an onion. And then he throws his Pokeball, and the Pokeball is somewhat of a clamshell, but it's also, you could think of it as a sphere, which is the perfect monad in the Platonic system. And the Pokeball unfurls, much like Pandora's box, and so it represents the unleashing of these divine energies. There's then like this energetic field where the Pokemon emerges from the Pokeball. And you look at the size of the Pokemon. In some cases, you have these legendary Pokemon such as Entei, Pokemon, trying to think of some other Pokemon here. But you have some very large Pokemon, which are these legendary Pokemon, sort of like godlike Pokemon, sort of titanic in Greek mythology, where like giants, they can move mountains. Some of these Pokemon, Kyogre, I think, is one of these Pokemon. They can move mountains, they can move oceans, they can cause tsunamis. So they are, in a sense, a reference to the Japanese concept in Shinto of these gods of nature, this animist spirit, which also we find following Gebser in previous religious and spiritual forms within Europe and within Africa. The mountain is a god, and the stream is a god, and the ocean is a god. And so these Pokemon represent the primordial forces of society. The Pokeball, in some sense, represents the reversal of Pandora's box, where the Olympian Pokemaster, the Asir of the Pokemaster, he has defeated the giant in combat. He's defeated the Titan of the Pokemon, and he has entrapped the Pokemon within the Pokeball, which is this sphere, which sort of represents, in a sense, it's like an eyeball, and it has the two colors white and red as a dualist symbology. Now, what do those two colors represent? Well, we could think of many things, but typically the color red is associated in human psychology with passion. So when we think about red, we think about love and romance, but also blood and violence. So the color red is a very thumotic color. And in the Pokeball, the color red is on top. So the thumos sits on top of this Platonic system. You can also reference the yin-yang within East Asia, especially Korea. But we have this Pokeball, we have the thumotic element, the red is on top, and on the bottom is white, representing purity, representing absence of earthly aspects. On the earth, I mean, there is quartz, right? There are certain things which appear to be white. If you stare at the sun, it kind of looks white in the center. Clouds appear to be white. But whiteness usually represents a kind of purity. The snow, peace. So whiteness could be said to represent, in some ways, the priest class, which is not thumotic, which is actually anti-thumotic. The priest class attempts to conquer the thumos through contemplation, meditation, and prayer. And so the Pokeball, in a sense, represents this dynamic of the thumotic element in opposition to the priestly element, wherein the thumos sits on top and the priestly exists on bottom, which is a supporting structure. We can think about this in terms of God or the logos, the laws of the universe, giving rise to living creatures. God creates through logos. He creates these creatures, which are embodiments of thumos, which then live on and perpetuate themselves through the willful desire. So this represents, in a way, this kind of tree of life encapsulated with a Platonic sphere. You'll notice that whenever the Pokemaster throws the Pokeball, each and every time that Pokeball always lands with the white on bottom and the red on top. So it's very esoteric. It's a very spiritual legend, the legend of the Pokemon and the Pokemasters. What is a Pokemon? It's a deep question. What is the true nature of the Pokemon as a force of nature? The Pokemon has been conquered by the Pokemaster. The Pokemaster often are represented as children. Ash Ketchum. Ash Ketchum. He is but a child, and yet he has mastered the monster, the Pokemon Pikachu. Pikachu is a god of thunder and lightning. He is a god of electricity. And the fact that Pikachu is possibly the most popular Pokemon of all time is a testament to two deep psychological and spiritual truths. Because what does Pikachu represent? On the one hand, Pikachu represents the Industrial Revolution. Pikachu represents Thomas Edison, the lightning bolt. He represents Nikola Tesla. He represents the electrical revolution, which gave rise to modern technology, the internet, the hyperspace that we are now encapsulated within this live stream. So Pikachu represents all of that. But Pikachu is also a mouse. He is also cute. He has red circles on his cheeks, which represent bashfulness, embarrassment. Pikachu is not bold. Pikachu has not become who he truly is. He does not represent himself as a terrible god of thunder like Thor or perhaps Yahweh in some instances. He does not represent him as a terrible god of nature and of technology and hypermodernity. No, he's not a Lovecraftian creature. He's not a great storm cloud. He's not foreboding. He's not scary. Pikachu is in a way genderless, androgynous, cute. Pikachu is but a baby. There is an interesting contrast in the morphology of the Pikachu creature, because Pikachu himself is like a fetus. He is soft, he is squishy, he is like a bean, but his tail is jagged. His tail actually represents the thunderbolt, which of course was a fascist symbol prior to World War II in Britain, the thunderbolt, as well as the SS runes. So there is a fascist element to Pikachu. There is a reactionary element to Pikachu. There's an angular masculine element, but that's the tail. And when Pikachu approaches you, you can't quite see the tail of Pikachu. You don't quite recognize the angularity, the masculinity, the fascism inherent within the Pikachu creature. All you see is this kind of cutesy, he's got the red circles on his cheeks. He is bashful. He is like a fetus. He is a baby. He is in some ways genderless. He is in some ways both male and female. The male Pikachu and the female Pikachu basically look the same. So from the front, Pikachu looks purely innocent. There's a superficiality of Pikachu where he is innocent. He has been conquered. He has been castrated. And yet there is still this tail, which you could say is his remaining phallic energies, which are aggressive. And that is where his lightning comes from. And so this Pikachu, the Pikachu creature, is a metaphor for the way in which liberalism introduces technology into our society. We introduce technology as, oh, look at this cute little app on our phone, or, oh, you can watch a YouTube live stream, or, oh, this is so cute. This is, the way Facebook advertises itself, the way Google advertises itself, of you can look at baby pictures. You can look at cute cats. Remember that? Remember back in the day when, the internet was about funny cats? Oh, the internet is just for looking at funny pictures of cats, It's nothing serious. It's nothing scary. But once you've sort of accepted the Pikachu creature into your life, it becomes too late. Once the Pikachu creature passes by you and you are in the wake of the Pikachu creature, the Pokemon, then you see the angular tail. Then you see the powerful fascist energies of Pikachu, the energies of destruction. And by then it's too late. You've been zapped. You've been zapped. You're blasting off once again. Team Rocket, you're in the stratosphere. You're a little point. You're a little star in the sky. You know, you've lost your identity. You are no longer part of Team Rocket. You are now just a blip in the sky. And yet you're forced to go through this process over and over again, even though we recognize the truth that Pikachu as an embodiment of the internet is destructive. He is not as he appears. He is not simply a little baby. He is actually a ferocious thunder god. But even as we recognize that, and even as we are blasted off into the stratosphere and we become a little star in the sky, we still must again and again confront the Pikachu monster. Even though we recognize the terrible consequences of the internet, we still have to keep coming back. We are stuck in this vicious perennial cycle. Our will, you know, we see the Pikachu character, we see, oh, he's so cute, and we approach him, and then he zaps us, and we go into space. We have to keep coming back. And the fact that Team Rocket is always blasting off, and they're always thrown into the sky, I mean, what happens to them, right? Do they die in the vacuum of space? Do they fall to the earth and crash? I mean, what happens to them? Team Rocket, Jesse and James, must eternally reincarnate to face the Pikachu monster. That's the decision we're faced with every single day when we wake up in the morning, check our phones, go on the internet, watch a stream. We are Jesse and James. And the interesting thing about Jesse and James is they are implicitly LGBTQ characters. Jesse, James, Team Rocket blasting off once again. There is something there. There is a ideology, I think, of sexual revolution in Jesse and James. I think if you really look at the Jesse James character and the fact that they have Meowth, Meowth is like a parody of Pikachu, and Meowth represents the merchant. Meowth's superpower, he doesn't have any. Meowth, I mean, we know who Meowth is. We know who Meowth is. He's got a coin on his head. He's somehow related to the ancient Egyptians in one way or another. Meowth, he doesn't have any physical powers. He has the powers of scheming. He has the power of the coin. And he is accompanying Jesse and James, who are servants of the Team Rocket Corporation, whose job is to try to conquer the Pokemon, steal the Pokemon. They represent the evil corporation that is trying to create this controlled opposition of Jesse and James. So there's this whole conflict here. I mean, it's a complicated thing. I mean, the Pokemon represent the Olympians, then the corporations are directing Jesse and James, and then they have Meowth. So it's a very complicated thing. I mean, Pokemon, it's a very deep series. There is this conflict between pragmatic identities and idealistic ones. Maybe we should just look at groups this way, the ideal and the actual. Okay. Well, what does that mean? My question then is, are we pragmatically Christian or are we pragmatically liberal? Then what becomes, even if we could agree that in some sense idealistically we would be something different. And I think actually these are related. I think ultimately we can't fully separate pragmatic effects and results from the ideal roots of a system. That is a way to resolve this internally. From the outside, group membership has to mean something concrete. The apple-onion dispute is part of a larger fruit-vegetable conflict. Yeah, I think they're having a problem with that in the Middle East right now. The the fruit vegetable conflict over there. Who represents the fruits and who represents the vegetables? I mean, I'm inclined to call the Iranians the fruits of the Middle East. That's just me. People can disagree. Just to me, I see Iran as a fruit, and I see Saudi Arabia as a vegetable. But that's just my intuition. You can see my bias there. The tomatoes we should think of as mercenaries. Warrior merchant tomatoes. Yeah, the different classes. Well, clearly meat is the warrior class. Vegetables, I mean, vegetables would sort of, in a way, are vegetables the priest class or are they the merchant class? Maybe the more important question is who are the fruits? Is that because I feel like the priests being ascetics, they like vegetables more, but then also there's a lot of fruity metaphors within the priest class. This is difficult. What else do we have besides fruits and vegetables? Legumes, beans. Beans are very important in the Pythagorean system. The pear is the answer. Yeah, pears are pretty bland though. Pears, it's like they're sweet, but they're not super sweet. So I don't know about pears. I'm not like against, like who could be against pears? Who looks at a pear and thinks, oh, this is terrible? But the pear, it's okay. It's bland. Like you're eating a pear and you're like, is this ripe? You're eating a pear and you're like, did they take this right off the tree like way too early? That's my experience. Every time I've ever eaten a pear, I'm like, is this how it's supposed to taste? Like, I feel like it's a little bland. It's not bad. It's just bland. Pears are like the bread of the fruit system. So I don't know about pears. On which side does the tomato fight? Are they like Renaissance pikemen? The pomegranate is the true synthesis. I am a fan of I don't eat them a lot because it takes a lot of time and energy to eat a pomegranate. There's so many seeds. Pomegranates are very Greek. Whereas ontologically, yum, yum, yum. Yeah. Onion ASMR. Probably if I called this onion ASMR, I would be more successful. You know, I'm such a big dummy. It was only today that I figured out you can go into the YouTube studio and you can actually change the names of the live streams by clicking on live rather than uploads. This is how not extremely intelligent I am. Let's call it Man Eats Onion ASMR. Throw that one in there. There we go. Beautiful. That's what we want. All right, back to the old stream. Keno's Trap House. I've never really listened to more than clips of Trapo. What is it called? Chapo Trap House? I've listened to like clips where they like make fun of Biden or they make fun of Clinton. And it's like, I guess that's something authentic. I guess that making fun of the Democratic establishment because they're not pure enough. You know, there's something to that. They are like taking the principles of the Democratic establishment and pointing out the hypocrisies of the fact that like the Democrats who are in power do not take those principles to their logical conclusion, and they laugh and they're like, oh, another old white man. Haha, that is so contradictory with the founding ideals and the principles of the Democratic Party. Haha, like, this is so funny. I'm going to BTFO Clinton because she's not right-wing enough, or she's not left-wing enough. So it's sort of a kind of purity spiraling on the left. The question is that sort of thing going to hurt the left in the long term, or is it ultimately going to strengthen the left? Because if you have a bunch of hypocrites leading your party, it does create contradictions. It does create problems. So trying to work through that is possibly necessary for the future survival of the Democrat Party. But at the same time, maybe there's no resolution to those contradictions. Maybe it will only continue to create new contradictions. The same goes for the shape of your skull. I have no clue what that is in reference to. I'm not really clicking the mouse well here. I gotta go up. Ken looks like you just consumed 10 weeds before that onion. Yeah, this is why I don't do drugs, because people for the longest time have been telling me, dude, are you on drugs? You look like you're on drugs. You sound like you're on drugs. You're definitely on drugs. And I'm like, well, I better never take drugs ever, because I think I already have way too much drug energy in my system. I think Christopher Hitchens chose to become an American, but he failed because he has a British accent. His children would have been American, but I'm not sure he had any. Yeah, I don't think he had any kids. I don't think he chose to become an American. I think Milo has tried to become an American. Ken has been smoking bowls all morning. It's how he talks so intellectually and for such a long duration. That is not true. What's with all that clanking? I'm trying to sleep. Well, close the stream, dude. You got to close the stream. You got to shut it down, shut it off, go to sleep. Those who come to Islam because they wish to draw closer to God have no problem with a multiform Islam radiating from a single revealed paradigmatic core. Okay. Let's better understand the symbology of Ken Trap House. The Trap House thing, I don't know about that. I think that's like a drug gangster reference, not about that life. But those who come to Islam seeking an identity will find the multiplicity of traditional Muslim cultures intolerable. Ken, but with Christianity. Maybe. Everyone's got the same problems. That's the perennial aspect, right? Dio Strabo, stop trying to sell people wheat. I will not allow people to sell weed on my stream here. Kenis Rasu 420 trap. What is with this trap house stuff? I'm going to ban this word trap house. This is ridiculous. Ken carries his stash of bud in his tube. I can't read that. No, I don't have any drugs. Like the Japanese word horuman, meaning pig intestine. Actually, they don't make sense with their loan words over there. Pig intestine. Pokemon, Horuman, Calergimon. Calergimon is a pretty powerful Pokemon. Pokeballs are global world spheres. Oh, now we're getting John David Ebert with it. Dude, John David Ebert, how is he not? I need to see. Maybe he's already done it. I need to see John David Ebert analyze Pokemon. The world spheres of Pokemon. It's going to blow you away. I'm going to be blown away by John David Ebert's analysis of Pokemon. Onion's starting to get spicy. I'm not going to lie. The onion is starting to get spicy. And my hands are covered in onion juices. Maybe I need some napkins here. Give me a second. Give me some napkins. I need a little bit of napkin action. Oh boy. Let's grab some napkins over here. Whew. Getting a bit spicy. I should have prepared better for this. Pokeballs. Pokeballs. I gotta take a W. Give me a W. Pokeballs are global world spheres. I can't believe I didn't say that. I can't believe I missed that one. Pokemons are world center powers that are unleashed by the rational technological mind world of the Pokemaster. You're doing it better than me. You should be on here, fourth density. You should be on here. I should just be quiet and eat my onion while you talk about Pokemon. Pokemon is an overcoming by harnessing rootedness at will. Perhaps the following is true. If at some point identity is no longer self-evident, then it is our nature to deconstruct it. Red cheeks also signal youth or fertility. Pikachu is baby Apollo. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if he has the morphology of baby Apollo. This is like the Garfield pipe strip. Yeah. That Garfield pipe strip was a very good strip. It was a very good strip where it talks about, pseudo. Basically, I think the pipe strip came out before Jordan Peterson. The pipe strip basically breaks down, like, it's an hour of a man predicting Jordan Peterson and making fun of Jordan Peterson before Jordan Peterson ever came to the forefront, onto the scene, as it were. So the pipe strip is very valuable. So is Pikachu like a scorpion? If it were cute at first, then you don't see the tail coming. Have you forgot your onion? Yeah, I got caught up in the Pokemon. I forgot my onion. Pikachu is a bashful, childlike, and fascist god of thunder. The more you know. Yeah, that is true. He is all of those things. Pikachu is like the Chinese eunuch Zhang He. That's all possible. It's all possible. The red pads on Pikachu's face act as conductors for his power. That is also true. And he evolves into Raichu. I wonder what that means. You wouldn't expect a eunuch to be an aggressive conqueror. Actually, the Ottomans had a lot of conquerors who were eunuchs. They had a lot of generals who were eunuchs, interestingly. Maybe like Hillary Clinton, in a way. Pikachu is also a cherub. Yeah, okay. I'm seeing it. Shrek comment. I don't know what Shrek comment that would be. Priestley VeggieTales. Yeah, I never really sat down and watched VeggieTales, but I know the meme of VeggieTales. It's kind of like it's like a cucumber with a hat, and he's talking about how he's saved by Jesus. I mean, it is what it is. It's at those points, it's like, I get kind of offended when people take sacred things and they're like, oh, we're going to sell it to the youth by dumbing it down and like making everyone cucumbers and animals. And at that point, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that is that blasphemous. Pears, prebiotics, postbiotics. Yeah, that could be a title of a stream, postbiotics. Nick Fuentes being the last true Nietzschean. Nick Fuentes is a Nietzschean. If you read in between the lines, like, he uses the term slave morality and will to power. People could fight me on this. It's just true. I never heard him say that. I never heard him talk about Nietzsche. I never heard him say will to power. I never saw him talk about slave morality or master morality. He does do these things. He is a Nietzschean. He might be the last true Nietzsche. I wouldn't say he's the last true Nietzschean, but I think every single stream I've ever had People ask me how old I am. And the fact that that keeps happening, I'm never going to answer that question. Because if I do answer that question, it doesn't matter. People are just going to keep asking. So it's a mystery. The oblong coin on Meowth's forehead specifically resembles the koban, the gold pieces of feudal Japan retired in the Meiji area. So there's a reactionary symbology there. Okay. See, I don't know about the Asian culture. I just know about Western culture pretty much. Once knew a guy who sounded like a stoner, then he became a stoner, and the behavior's amplified, not good. Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm already pretty chill. I've got the stoner eyes. I've got the stoner mentality. I am already a stoner, so I don't need drugs. I don't want drugs. How exactly do traps exemplify the Faustian spirit? Well, I can tell you, look, the Faustian spirit is about going beyond. It is about going into new territories, conquering nature, doing things that have never been done before. And so, to the extent that traps are attempting to conquer gender itself, they're trying to say, I don't care what I was born as. I don't care what society tells me what I am. I'm going to conquer gender, and I'm going to become female. This is Faustian. So, love it or hate it. Like, yeah, I'm not saying everyone has to love being Faustian. I'm not saying everyone has to love traps. But I'm just saying that traps are a logical conclusion of the Faustian quest. They're not even the Faustian quest has no, by its own construction, the Faustian quest is unlimited. It does not limit itself to mere traps. Traps are only the beginning. So I think traps are very Faustian. Not saying I have too much experience or something like that in my personal life, but just as a cultural artifact. Not that I'm going to be inviting any traps on streaming with traps. I'm probably not going to be doing that anytime soon. My personal life doesn't have too many traps in it. Not too many traps around here. Do you see any traps? I don't see any traps around. But as a cultural artifact, traps are one of the most pure expressions of the Faustian spirit that we can identify. Which is, I think, something probably like Jay Dyer would agree with that. People who hate the Faustian spirit, I think, would agree that traps are a logical conclusion of the Faustian spirit. And people who love traps, well, probably don't like the Faustian spirit because it's too much like conservative revolutionary or something. Like the term is too caught up in reactionary political discourse. So people who speak endlessly about the Faustian spirit will probably not want to admit that traps are a part of the Faustian spirit. But, when you look at it, because I talked about last stream, we talked about Wendy Carlos. If you look up Wendy Carlos, born Walter Carlos, back in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, the onions are getting to me. Walter transitioned to become Wendy. I'm taking a break from the onion. It's just too spicy. Walter transitioned to become Wendy and got a sex change operation back in the 80s. And you have to understand that these operations in the past were pretty, they were of a lower quality than they are today. As we push and push and push with the hormone therapy, as we push and push and push with the plastic surgery, bone cutting the jaw bones to make people look more feminine, genital surgery, all of these things, as we push them and as we try them and we have more human guinea pigs to experiment on, just that millions of people turning into traps, the procedures are going to get better and better. And there's going to be a point at which traps are indistinguishable from other women. And this is kind of if you ever are in a scenario where you're like hanging around a Starbucks cafe, a bunch of the Starbucks baristas are like gender neutral, gender androgynous, and you look at them and you're like, is that a woman with small breasts, or is that a feminine man on estrogen therapy? Like it is this confusing thing. It does become very confusing. But it's conquering the land of gender. It is going beyond gender. There were 2 cucumbers on the ark. Catboy Nietzscheanism is not real Nietzscheanism. I disagree. I think Catboy Nietzscheanism is extremely authentic Nietzscheanism. I think that's just a fact. Catboys, traps, all of these things, these are very authentically Nietzschean. You can't get around it. They are going beyond your little box of tradition. They are opening Pandora's box. They are Promethean. They're like Prometheus. They are stealing the fire from the gods. And they're going through a kind of creative destruction. Ogres are like onions, donkey. Onions have layers. That's true. I guess that's the Shrek quote. Got to drink some water here. Onions are a very good way to hydrate yourself, because a lot of people, they'll say, well, I don't want to drink a lot of water. We'll say, I don't want to drink gallons of water every day, but you start eating onions and you're going to want to drink some water. People are so ugly today that the bar for passing is very low. Yeah, but there was a time and place where if someone presented as feminine, you could say with basically 100, there was no doubt in my mind. If I saw someone wearing a skirt and it was not a kilt, if I saw someone wearing a skirt with long hair and everything, even if they kind of looked a little bit masculine, there was no confusion in my mind. I was like, that is a woman. That is someone who identifies as a woman. And there was a time where you could look at someone who's wearing pants and a suit with short hair and a tie and maybe a beard or something. You could say 100% certain that is a man, that is someone who identifies as a man. We've now entered this Faustian territory, new exploration, where you just can't know anymore. You can't know anymore. And you look at people and you're like, I have no clue. And some people, you have to understand, they're not even trying to be Faustian. They're just living their lives. There are people who are born men, identify as men, and they just look a little bit feminine. Maybe they got long hair. They just look a little bit feminine, especially kids, especially young kids. And then you've got women who just look masculine, and that just is what it is. And now today it's a very political thing. Dimorphism and attractiveness are not mutually exclusive. Yeah, dimorphism and attractiveness. Well, it's a weird thing with the dimorphism, because you can have men who are extremely masculine, and then you can have men who are extremely feminine. So on the one hand, I think you kind of have people often say like Brad Pitt is very masculine. I don't think that's the case. I think there are more masculine actors. I think like Viggo Mortensen is more masculine. there are some guys who are extremely masculine, certain MMA fighters, guys with very gaunt cheeks, guys where it's like huge jaw, very gaunt cheek, very defined, very high cheekbone, very like gaunt. I think the guy who, when we were talking about that church shooting that happened not too long ago, which has been totally, everyone's forgotten about it as far as I know. No one cares. No one cares that a man walked into a church dressed in black robes, fake black beard, black hood, and he just started blasting and he killed 2 people. And then a bunch of people in the church took out their handguns and shot him dead. No one wants to talk about that anymore. It's just totally out of the news because, of course, Second Amendment worked. Second Amendment did its job. Nobody wants to talk about that. But when it was happening, a picture of the guy came out without the fake beard, without the robes. He looked hyper masculine. He looked at this sloped forehead, like this Neanderthal structure. And you can see this. There's this like famous Russian boxer. I forget the guy's name. But like these Russian boxers with this brow ridge and sloped forehead and huge jaw and massive nose, and they've just got very prominent masculine features. You know, women on average in Western societies don't say, yeah, I want that. They don't say, yeah, that's the most attractive thing. Because that's a heavy masculine dimorphism. Women aren't just looking for masculinity. They want something in the middle. They don't want it to be completely feminine. They want it to be identifiably masculine, but also, you know, in a spectrum, not completely masculine, because that gets scary. Some women like that. Remember, there's a spectrum of what women like. So some women, they want the Neanderthal. And then some women are into K-pop, which I gotta say, I don't understand K-pop. I'm not a fan of K-pop. I don't get it. I don't get the K-pop thing. I mean, I guess I do get it. It's like that late stage capitalism thing that Cuck philosophy talks about, but it's like really, it's offensive to me. I would ban K-pop. I have nothing against Korean people, especially North Korea. I have nothing against Korean people. I've known some good Koreans in my time. I like Koreans, but the K-pop and the awfuls who like K-pop is just pretty offensive to me. East Asian, relatively less dimorphism, okay. Joe Biden just checking very carefully before decide. I don't know what that's a reference to, but Joe Biden 2020 is definitely something that I'm pushing. Joe Biden is the chaos candidate. Joe Biden is the Faustian spirit. Joe Biden is just saying crazy things. On Twitter, there's a video where a nice young black lady is taking a picture with Joe Biden. She's like, "Oh, Joe, I would love to take a picture with you." And Joe's like, "Oh, of course, I would love to take a picture with you." And so they got that. Joe Biden's got the arm around there. They're embracing each other, taking a styling photo, taking a styling selfie. And as she's taking some pictures, he gets in a sneaky little kiss there, a little sneaky kiss on the cheek. And he holds it. He holds it to make sure. He doesn't just peck and go away. No, he goes, you know, because he wants to get this picture. He wants the whole world to see that he is kissing this young black woman. And she's ecstatic. You can tell he's emanating that alpha energy, that conqueror spirit. She can feel his vitality. She can feel it just reverberating off his body. It doesn't matter how old he is. He's got more testosterone. He's got more energy. I mean, he is electric. This Joe Biden, he is on fire. And you've got this young black woman. She's loving it. I mean, from what I could see in the Twitter photo. And now maybe, of course, there's always feminists who will come out and say, "Oh, that was non-consensual. Joe Biden should have asked for consent before kissing that woman." And maybe according to the YouTube terms of service, I have to say, yes, of course. Of course, he should have asked for consent. But would Donald Trump ever do that? Would Donald Trump go around kissing black women? I don't think so. I don't think Donald Trump would ever do that. I think Joe Biden is the chaos candidate. I think I think Joe Biden, people need to ask him about the Greeks. You need to go up. You see, thank you, Vice President Biden, for being here tonight. I'm a big supporter of your campaign, and I'm also I study at college. I'm studying ancient Greek. I was wondering because we just got a dummy in the White House right now, if you could give us a more intelligent view, maybe basically on history, civilization. What do you think are the parallels between ancient Greek civilization and our current civilization? What's our path forward? What lessons can we learn from the ancient Greeks, Mr. Vice President Biden? Ask him that. I swear, someone asked him that question. Joe Biden is going to go off. I don't know what he's going to say, but he's going to say something. If you ask Trump, first of all, Trump wouldn't take a question like that. He would say, that's silly. We're going to bomb Iran. We're going to kill them. We're going to commit genocide. It's going to be awesome. That's what Trump would say. We're going to have more. We're going to have genocide at home, genocide abroad. We're going to invade the world. We're going to have more immigrants than ever before. They're going to be so highly skilled. They're going to outcompete American workers. They're going to put you all out of jobs. We're going to destroy Iran. We're going to destroy America. It's going to be great. So Donald Trump would just redirect. He would never actually take the question. If you asked him about the ancient Greeks, he would say, what, the ancient Greeks? I like little Greek dressing on my salad. He's a big dummy. Donald Trump is a dummy. Donald Trump is stupid. Donald Trump doesn't know anything about the Greeks. Joe Biden, on the other hand, you ask Joe Biden about the Greeks, he's going to have an answer for you. Short-haired lesbians in pants are the embodiment of the Faustian spirit. They are one of the many infinite embodiments of the Faustian spirit. I think politics needs to stay out of games journalism. I think games journalism needs to stay out of politics. I am tired of these Russian games journalists influencing our elections. This is dangerous for our democracy. I am Ultimate TV 9000. Thank you for appearing. There are Korean soap operas, not animes, where the plot is centered around a woman passing as a man. Okay. That's cool. Those Amish lads who got arrested for being drunk on a horse buggy are what all men used to look like. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think that's true, because you look at serfs, a majority of the diet of a serf was like vegetables and potatoes. Now, the aristocracy ate a lot of meat. And because the Amish today live in a time and place where it's very easy to have a lot of meat, they're eating a lot of meat and they're getting big. And also they have a genetic selective thing going on. There's an epigenetic thing going on. They don't have plastics. But those Amish lads, they were pretty, those were some pretty masculine lads. You look at them. When I see Amish guys, because I see Amish guys every now and then, they got the big long beards. I usually see the older Amish guys. Usually when I see Amish people in my life history, you either see the Amish women in the bonnets or you see an old Amish man. Very rarely do I ever see young Amish men outside the community, like at the grocery store. So I'm thinking maybe the young Amish men are mostly doing the hard work on the farm or whatever. But yeah, the Amish young men, most of the old Amish men I see do not look very masculine. But then again, the effects of aging do have a kind of androgynous effect, so it kind of decreases those masculine features. What does it mean to be masculine or feminine? I have no concept of what these categories mean. Yeah, you are in the stratosphere, Henry Benjamin. You're beyond my puny brain. Ban gangster rap. No, gangster rap is here to stay. Ban people on the internet who go around saying ban circumcision, ban gangster rap. This is ridiculous. Go back to playing StarCraft. Go back to playing your little strategy game. No one cares what you would ban or how much you hate XYZ. Do something positive. Stop trying to ban things that you don't like. Do something positive. Instead of banning gangster rap, make your own rap. Make your own music. I want to see something positive. I don't want to just see something critical. Bathhouse round the clock sex Biden. Yeah, Joe Biden probably has had more sex than you. Because Joe Biden is a Chad. Joe Biden is an alpha. He is the chaos candidate. Every single argument that was made for Trump in 2016 applies even more so to Biden 2020. You know, all the people who are like, well, you know, we should elect Trump because there's no way he could possibly be worse than the Democrats. And also, he says a lot of funny, like crazy stuff that might shift the Overton window. The argument for Biden, he can't possibly be worse than Trump. First of all, Biden was part of the Obama coalition that put together the Iran deal. So he has a track record of promoting peace with Iran. So on the war front, Biden is, we know he can't be worse than Trump. He might also start a war with Iran, but he can't be worse than Donald Trump. On immigration, Donald Trump is breaking all the records. We're seeing unprecedented immigration in 2019 like we've never seen before. There is no possible way that Biden can make this any worse, especially because he's going to be under pressure from Republicans, because the only time Republicans actually are anti-immigration is when they're out of power, because they use immigration as a tool to get into power. And they promise, oh, we're going to stop immigration. We're going to stop immigration. Then they get in power and they actually increase immigration. So when it's a Democrat president, you actually see less immigration to the country effectively. So I don't think it can be worse on that front. And on any other number of fronts, I think there would be no bad consequence. I mean, what else? Oh, censorship. They're going to put people in prison for having the wrong ideas, as if that's not already happening. And maybe people, we just need to formalize that and wake up and be mature about it. And just understand that's what it is, rather than having this this veil of safety that, oh, Trump's monitoring the situation. So on a number of levels, it's like it can't get worse under Biden. It can only get better. Biden will shift the Overton window in ways people cannot imagine. The Democrat reaction to Biden as a president is going to be amazing. The Democrat reaction is going to be, we hate this old white man. The hatred of Joe Biden by the Democrats is going to wake up a whole lot of people. Whereas you get Trump in there and it's just going to be same old, same old. Joe, black kids love to rub my hairy legs. Yeah, you wish black kids would rub your hairy legs. You wish you could do anything. Joe Biden has that Trump energy. Remember when Trump said I could go on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any support? That's Biden. Biden can say the craziest things. Biden can get away with anything. I don't think Clinton killed Epstein. I think Biden killed Epstein. I think Biden is a powerful alpha male. He is the role model that needs to be in front of the American people right now. Biden can just do and say anything he wants. He's an amazing character. Biden is Dionysian. Yeah, he is. He is a chaos character. Do it. I don't know what you're telling me to do here. I once knew a woman. I once knew a woman into K-pop. She models in Korea now. Well, that sounds like a success. I don't know what you're telling me to do, void smokers. Donald Trump is stupid, juicy, onion, crunchy. We're almost done with this onion. Look how small this is. We're almost done with this onion. It's really only that part. Let's take some W's. Get ready for that part. Donald's IQ is smaller than his tiny hands. Yeah. I mean, I won't insult the guy's tiny hands. Look, tiny-handed people, they're fine with me. But just the level of, at some point, when Donald Trump deliberately makes himself closer to TPS USA after all the controversy that was everywhere. It was all over the news. There's no way Donald Trump didn't know what was going on at TPUSA. They said, you have to help us here, Donald. We're under attack. And he said, oh, of course, I'll get my whole family over there. We'll all support you. I'll support you. And then, of course, you had even Tucker and Ann trying to get in and join their SAS conference. And it's like the whole controversy never happened. It's like nobody ever asked any questions at this point. So, I mean, what do you do when the argument for Trump was, oh, well, he might not get anything done politically. He might even make some terrible policy decisions, but at least he's going to shift the rhetoric in our direction. He's going to make the Republican Party based. Well, he's everything he's doing actively. He could he could be in a coma right now and it would be better than what he's doing. All of the actions, all the things he's saying, it's pushing the conversation in the exact opposite direction. It's making the Republican Party, bringing back the warmongering aspect. All of his rhetoric is totally wrong. It's completely in the opposite direction. So all of the arguments that were made for Trump have totally fallen flat on their face. And I guess I can forgive some people for being stupid enough to believe a politician. But at this point, it's like, how long are you going to continue to be? At this point, it's not ignorance. It's a willful distortion of reality. It's like, well, secretly, even though every single thing Trump is doing is wrong at this point, we have to support him because that's somehow going to pay off in the long run. Well, maybe by allowing him to lose an election would have a payoff in the long run. Maybe that would show that if you campaign on building a wall, on stopping political correctness and stopping immigration and stopping foreign endless wars and stopping the drug crisis, and everything you do is the exact opposite, well, maybe you're going to lose the election. You're not going to be able to win a second term. So maybe that would be a lesson to future Republicans that if you're not going to follow through on these promises, or at least you're not going to try, or at least don't just shut. If you can't get your agenda done, shut up, go golfing, and stop trying to start wars. Stop trying to make things worse than they were under Obama. If you're not going to say anything positive, don't say anything at all. Don't show up and hug Charlie Kirk. Don't show up and shake Charlie Kirk's hand. These are like basic things, the things that you don't have to do. But he's going ahead and doing them anyway. He's deliberately going out of his way to offend these these entryists as much as possible, and they're still in the human centipede, so to speak. So I don't know what you do with that. If you want somebody who's gonna shake things up, if you want to draw attention to the Epstein problem, if you listen to, and I was going to mention this maybe next stream, but the Gervais, was it Louis Gervais? What's that guy's first name? Gervais. Is it Louis? Is his first name Louis, or is it Ricky? I think it's Ricky Gervais. Ricky just did this whole Golden Globes thing where he talks about Leonardo DiCaprio dating underage girls and all this stuff. Jeffrey Epstein is popular in Hollywood. He says all of this stuff. The mainstream media doesn't draw attention to that. It says, oh, Ricky Gervais is talking about the liberal bias. No, he's not talking about the liberal bias. He's talking about this, I can't even say it on YouTube, but he's talking about some more important things than liberal bias. And I think actually electing Biden would bring this to the forefront, would bring this to attention in a big way, and that would be interesting. Trump's not going to do it. Trump was just as much friends with Epstein as anybody else, and he's totally buried the thing. It was probably Donald Trump who killed Epstein. The whole thing where it was double jeopardy, he was jailed twice for the same offense, he was brought into prison, and all of these mistakes happened. All of these, it must have been the Clintons controlled the jail. The Clintons controlled the prison. The Clintons controlled the guards. Who says it wasn't Trump? People said Bush did 9/11, which has its own problems with that story. But it's like, I think Trump is as likely a candidate. Maybe he wanted to bring in Epstein and kill him in prison so that he couldn't reveal things about Trump. So that's where we're at. Did you see Boris Johnson reciting Greek? Yeah, I did see that. He recites the Iliad as an incantation to give him courage. Yeah, he's an interesting guy of distant Turkish heritage. He's an interesting guy. Not that I don't have a huge amount of respect for Boris Johnson, but you have to say he is a good political operator. He was mayor of London, and right after he stepped down or his term ended or whatever, Sadiq Khan steps in. So you're talking about London, which is this very left-wing, diverse place, and Boris Johnson managed to hold on to power in London, of all places. So that's impressive. And then the way he's been able to take away support from the Labour Party and funnel it into the Conservative Party, I think that's impressive. So I think he has certain powers. I think he is a successful man. He's also, I don't know if he's divorced or it's like he has a wife and she lives in a separate house, and then he has a girlfriend, and there's like this weird, he's got some weird romantic life going on, which is not very conservative. But the fact that he's been able to move all these chess pieces around and put everything where it is kind of impressive as a personality, and he's pretty sharp. So he's a good strategist. He's a good orator. He's not an alcoholic like Churchill, although he seems to be, an adulterer. So, Boris, wherever we might disagree with Boris, we can at least say Boris is impressive. He's impressive to me. I'm impressed as a politician, as a guy who is his job is to lie or whatever. I'm still pretty impressed by the guy. I'm impressed by Boris. Just like I'm impressed by Joe Biden. I'm just not impressed by Trump anymore. He doesn't impress me. Trump is just George W. on steroids. George W. was smart enough to never say, we're going to go in and destroy their cultural sites. It's just such a stupid thing to say. I don't know. There's like this 4D chess. I guess we'll see what happens. I guess if Trump ends up, I'm going to eat this part. If Trump ends up not invading Iran, I guess we'll say, oh, it was all 4D chess. If somehow peace can be saved from the jaws of war here, then I guess the Trump loyalists will be vindicated in some way. But we'll just have to wait and see, right? Joe Biden will talk about our tradition, our culture, coming directly from the Areopagus. The dementia in chief probably thought he was sending to Israel when he approved the airstrikes. No, if you're talking about Trump has never said or did or ever thought an anti-Israel thought in his life. On the other hand, Joe Biden, if you asked it in the right way, I don't think if you said, Joe Biden, do you support Israel? Of course he supports Israel. But you have to ask it in the right way. Remember, it's Joe Biden who said something, I can't even say it on YouTube, but Joe Biden was like, all of the liberal progressive things that have ever been done, we can praise one group for accomplishing all of it. Without this one group, we could never have gay marriage. We could never have racial integration. We can never have all these awesome things without this one group. They get all the credit. They're the best people in the world. They're responsible for every single liberal thing that's ever happened in history. This one group. Remember when Joe Biden said that? So he's the chaos candidate. People have to understand this. And he's untouchable. No one can say, like you say, oh, Joe, don't do that. Stop saying that. That's not right. Remember when he came out with a video and he was like, a lot of people have been saying that I'm too touchy-feely. And I understand. And I'm just trying to be I'm just trying to embrace people, but I understand that's uncomfortable, and I promise I'm going to be better. And now he's kissing black girls. You can't stop him. He's unstoppable. Biden 2020. The majority diet of the serfs was cereals. Yeah. Oh boy, we're eating that part. I know this is Reddit, but I would love to see like George Washington reacting to 2020 America. I mean, if I'm confused, I'm like, but in the 2010s, things were like this, and now things are like this, or like in the early 2000s, America was like this, and this was normative, but now this is normative. Like, even I'm confused. So I would just take that level of confusion and then I would magnify it by some order of magnitude, and I'd apply that to George Washington, and then George Washington would be like, this isn't America, this is like a demon hellscape or something. Like, he would not know what to make of it. Do you know John Baudrillard? I don't know how to pronounce this. I've heard of him before. He's a French sociologist, philosopher, cultural theorist. His formulation of concepts such as simulation, hyperreality, consumerism, gender relations, social history. His best known works are Simulacra and Simulation, America, the Gulf War did not take place. He is a postmodernist and post-structuralist. Yeah. I haven't read him directly, but I know Ebert references him a lot. So that's where I'm getting his ideas, are through the medium of Ebert. You could study Biden's public appearances for no more than a month, craft a short paragraph that would ruin him, or make him think whatever you want. Yeah, I guess you're saying we could formulate a good question. Ask him about the Greeks, dude. I'm pretty sure he has some secret knowledge about the Greeks. He's gonna tell you something. If you ask him in a way that like plays to his need and desire to be like everybody, like the national grandfather of everybody, to be a really smart guy, he'll be like, yeah, I know some things about the Greeks. Let me tell you about the difference between, you see, the Greeks, they had the Apollonian and the Dionysian. And as Americans, we need to embrace our Apollonian identity. I don't know what Biden's going to say. He's going to say something. Whereas if you ask Trump, Trump's going to be like, I like McDonald's. I like good steaks. I like gold-plated toilets. You know, I think we've exhausted everything crazy that Donald was ever going to do. Let's scroll here. Harnessing female energy is very powerful to use for manipulating people. Okay. Interesting. Deportations are down and border crossings are an all-time record highs. Yeah, that's true. You are not lying. I once ran through a forest with some Amish. They're really fast, all of them. That's cool. I just imagine they're healthy people in general. And I love the Amish. I don't want to join the Amish because I feel like I would pollute their bloodline. I feel like they are such a pure, innocent people. I love them from afar, but I would never want to join them because I'm like an inferior specimen, like not just genetically, but epigenetically. They do probably need a little bit of a wider gene pool because they do have like 6 toes. And I've known some German descended people who have the 6 toe thing, which is not that bad. It's having 6 toes. It's whatever. It kind of looks weird, but it's, you know, otherwise they're fine. They're fine. You know, but they have blindness and they have other rates of diseases due to their small gene pool. But I just look at, that's my opinion on Christians. It's like, I don't want to become a baptized Christian because it's like, I think of Christianity as this holy thing. And it upsets me when I see people like Heimbach coming along and saying Christianity is great and all of you degenerates are evil. And then, it comes out as what Heimbach is. And then that causes people to lose faith in Christianity. So there's kind of a thing where I don't want to come out and be like, yeah, I'm going to join the Amish. I'm going to join the Christians, because I feel in some way that cheapens the sacred space that is the Amish, or that is the Christianity. I don't like the way in which people appropriate symbols superficially. Do you hear what I'm saying? Biden is playing hopscotch on Epstein's body. I am eating that part. It's currently in my mouth. I'm chewing it slowly because last time it was too much. You shouldn't drink from plastic bottles. Do you think I'm drinking from a plastic bottle right now? This is a glass bottle. Father Biden will bring the burn to teeny weeny Trump. The thing is, Trump might defeat Biden. Like, I'm not even going to say that Trump would lose against Biden, because I don't know. Too many factors going on. But a Biden candidacy for 2020, I just don't see the harm. I think it would be amazing. Whoa! A strong wind came and blew me over. No, I like to alternate standing on one foot at a time. You can't see my legs, but I like to alternate standing on one foot at a time, and I lost my balance. That's a little secret for you. We read that. I'm Faust. That is my real name. Hello, Faust. Biden has BDE. What is BDE? BDE is everywhere these days. Okay. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Biden has BDE. Well, we'll see what Fuentes has to say. Look, the thing is, a full-scale war has not yet broken out. So there's a lot of contingencies. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. At this point, I sort of have to expect the unexpected. I don't know. There might be no war, and then I will look foolish. And maybe Fuentes is going to come and say he's against the war or whatever. So we just have to wait and see. But I think at this point, the meme energy is not behind Trump. The organic meme energy is no longer there. And I think Biden 2020 is the way to go. I think Yang, no chance. Tulsi, no chance. I don't know why people would even bother. That's even worse than Ron Paul. That's like worse than Kucinich. But I think that I think Biden 2020 is where the meme energy is at. Trump has been exposed to too many xenoestrogens. All the presidents slowly lose muscle mass. It might just be stress. I don't know what's going on. The question of was Trump a good guy who became bad? Is he still a good guy, but he's trying to get reelected? What's going on? I don't know. Really doesn't matter. What are your thoughts on raw milk? If you are lactose tolerant, if you can drink milk with no problem, raw milk has natural bacteria in it. In the same way, if you eat raw anything, the cooking process always destroys nutrients. On the other hand, salmonella is bad. So I personally, cook my eggs, for example. But raw milk has a number of health benefits. I mean, I think it's illegal in the United States to sell raw milk, but there are some places you can get it. Please make a video called Trump Will Not Protect Us 2020 edition. Yeah, I remember I made a video like that. Let's see if I have it in the archives. Trump. I just finished the onion, by the way. That's just the onion flakes, the dry part. Trump will. Let's just search Trump. Oh, 0 of my videos? Seriously? Okay, I'm going to search Trump in the title. None of my videos? Oh, because I'm searching the live videos. Crazy. Wait a second. Title contains Trump. No videos, no matching videos. That's too bad. Yeah, Trump will not protect us. That's true. Trump shot his wad. He has nothing further interesting to offer. Nationalism or nationalist politics. Well, he does, actually. American nationalism, that was kind of the initial discussion. I think there is a way in which neoconservatism and American nationalism have something in common. When you look at the American elites, their interest is neoconservatism, and there are arguments to be made in favor of war, which I didn't get into because it was hard. Like, I made the arguments against the war, and then I was going to make kind of a devil's advocate, reverse everything, put everything on its head. I think one of the best paths to a nationalist United States would be a war with Iran. But that's not my objective. And other people have offered their explanations of why that is true. Trilogy flavor. What do you think about Jesus coming back in 70 AD? I've heard the theory before. I don't really care about those kinds of revisionist Christian, like, the Catholic Church was wrong for 2,000 years. And, 200 years ago, there was some weird, like, Anglican bishop who came up with this idea that maybe Jesus came back in the year 70 AD. And so Christianity was wrong for 1,800 years, but then we figured out the truth through divine revelation. Like, it gets very silly because there's a lot of different little doctrines like that. Like, oh, he came back in 70 AD. He came back at 1000 AD. He came back here. He came back there. Or, whatever. There's all kinds of little things like that I've heard of and that don't interest me very much because, again, I'm not interested in, like, I'm interested in what are the spiritual ideas of Christianity. I'm not interested in, like, okay, well, here's how all of Christian history and all, like, interpretation and all church tradition was wrong and we should reject that. And, like, this alternative history is true. It's just like, it's a conspiracy theory, but instead of being about 9/11, it's about Jesus coming back in 70 AD. And there's just an infinite number of those. And I just don't have time to deal with all of those and to deal with that because I'm not invested in it. I don't think knowing the truth, there are certain people who are like, you must believe in the Catholic doctrine and all the things of the, you must call the Pope Father and all these things. And I'm like, I don't think that's actually the most important thing to life. It certainly is important for someone's Catholic identity and for the Catholic tradition. But, the idea that it's such an important thing that we understand Jesus came back in 70 AD, I'm like, no, what did Jesus stand for? What is the spiritual message of Christianity? What is the historical context, etc.? I think that is what is important. So I just don't get caught up in that kind of minutia. It just doesn't appeal to me. There are some people who are extremely, and they say there's a correlation between schizophrenia and conspiracy theories. I think there are some people who are extremely interested in conspiracy theories and historical alternative histories. And I see it as a huge waste of time, but I don't really spend time affirming these sort of theories. And I also don't really spend too much time debunking these theories. I don't really care too much either way. I just basically operate with mainstream history as much as I can. Was Titus II coming of Christ? Donald Trump literally eats a diet of McDonald's, which is a carb, chemical, harmful oil, antibiotic, factory farm meat loaded, dysgenic inducing mess. Meritards think this is masculine. Yeah, so on this topic, there's a theory that the elites know what's good and they're just trying to poison the rest of us. So what does that make Donald Trump? He is supposedly a billionaire, but he's eating slave food. So does Donald Trump actually know what the heck is going on? Or is it fake fast food? Does it look like fast food, but it's been specially prepared to be, like, organic and healthy? I don't know how many levels of conspiracy we could throw in there, but it is a very strange thing. You'd think if you were the most powerful person in the world or one of the most rich people in the world, you're a billionaire, you'd have dietitians who would make you delicious food and be like, here, Trump, this is healthy for you. But Trump's like, no, I want the slave food. I want to eat what the average people eat. That's very strange. It's very strange to me. I guess he thinks that, oh, this makes me closer to the people. People will think this is endearing. Yeah, I eat all the garbage food just like the rest of you fat people. And I'm a president of the people. The roots, the skin, the crunchy part. Yeah, we're done with that onion. We're done with the stream, basically. So 2-hour stream, eating onions. Eating too much meat, even healthy lean meat, isn't too good for you. I don't know about that. About 100 grams a week. Yeah, I don't believe that at all. I'm going to disagree with that. I eat 150 grams of protein every day. What is that? Soy protein? Eating processed meats like cured ham is especially bad. True. Although it is delicious. Spam. Pacific Islanders eat a lot of spam. Everything you say is heretical. Don't eat salami. Salami's good too. I don't eat a lot of processed meat. I don't eat salami very much, but it is tasty. But it causes digestive problems for me. Those highly processed foods. Raw meat. He's been chewing up those roots. Oh boy, we got a lot of comments. Does he read the live chat? Jesus didn't mean that generation. White people find Biden to be safe. He could actually win. It's possible Joe Biden can translate linear A to linear B. Joe Biden is a stable genius. Goldfish, nothing better than goldfish. Hobbits have 6 toes. Never heard of that. Netherlands, we call short people of the South hobbits. Aren't koi expensive instead of Mennonites? Why don't you found the Canaanites? Well, I'm not ready. I don't have the authority. I don't have the dogma. I don't know what's going on. I still have questions about, should we be Christians? Should we be Americans? All of this is very confusing to me. I'm lost. I am lost. Maybe I'm like John the Baptist. I'm like waiting for Jesus to come, and I'm waiting for someone to solve these problems for me so I can jump on board that train. Because they are shorter and stockier than the North, they are jolly and have a reputation. Garlic eating stream, we've already done that. We probably will do in the future. I was looking, 6 fingers. I don't know about that. I haven't seen too many 6-finger people there. Indians have mutations. I think that's due to pollution or inbreeding. I'm not sure which. Maybe a combination of both. Mushroom eating, we could do that, but it's not very difficult. Are you friends with Fuentes? I've never spoken with him, so I'm going to say no. But I don't have a special animosity toward the guy. And he might be right. I might be wrong about everything, and he might be right. There is speculation that Tulsi's a Republican plant. I don't think so, but she has no chance of winning. I don't know what her end game is. I think she wants to be like a Ron Paul type eventually, just always campaigning for presidency. Raw milk is illegal in Canada. You already ate the roots. Dude, the skins are literally it's nothing. It's just dry flakes. It's like paper. You're asking me to eat paper. I'm not going to eat the paper. Ridiculous. Trump, I don't know her. Do you read edgy websites? Well, I can't answer that question. Reads exclusively the Neoliberal Weekly supplied to select YouTubers on behest of Susan. That is the correct answer. Yeah, I read National Review. What do you think of Varg? He's just doing his thing. He's doing his own thing, and I wish the best to him. I wish the best. I hope everybody succeeds in their own special way, but he certainly would not be a fan of me. Raw milk is illegal everywhere, just like crack. You guys ban Kinder eggs and raw milk and then put Kinder corn syrup and everything. Conspiracy theories. Schizo, what is slave food? It's what the average person eats. America is such a Lovecraftian mess. The rich people fall for their own tricks. Yeah, it kind of makes you question the class structure of America. Is Trump truly in the upper class, or is he just sort of a puppet that they make him think he's rich? Like if Trump tried to withdraw all his money, what would actually happen? Would they be like, sorry, the banks we can't withdraw that much money at this time? I don't think he has that much money in the bank. I think his net worth is kind of a hoax. Um, I think it's a publicity stunt. I don't think he actually has that much control over all his different companies and corporations and assets. I don't think he could just sell them tomorrow and have a bunch of money. And I think the idea that he self-funded his campaign was ultimately a lie. He made loans to himself, which essentially means he took out a bunch of money in his own name. Now that money had to be paid back because it was loans from the companies that he owns, and he had to pay back that money. Now, where did he get the money to pay back that money? He didn't get it from himself. He got it from Sheldon Adelson and others. So the campaign funding, ultimately, he basically used this financial manipulation scheme to make it look like, oh, I'm self-funding. I'm taking out loans from myself. I don't take money from anyone else. But what he did is he took the loans from himself in order to pay back those loans after he got elected. Then he got the money from people like Sheldon Adelson. So it was a big lie. The self-funding thing was a big lie. He's getting massive amounts of donations. He doesn't have liquid capital. He has, oh, I own a state corporation. I own this big building. I own real estate. I own a golf course. Yeah, but you can't just sell that and liquidate it and turn it into, your campaign fund. You still need donations. So it was a big lie. It was a big hoax. Arnold Schwarzenegger did the same exact thing when he was running for governor of California. Old trick. People fell for the old trick. People are not too intelligent. Your food is really bad. Yeah, that's a problem with America. Eat what you want, be happy, love life. You don't literally eat whatever you want. You know what I mean? Salt and meat bad. Joe Biden, make my Mycenae. I think you mean Mycenaean Greece. Great again. Modern diet kills good gut bacteria. Eat beans and oats. No, beans are not good. Beets are legumes. They contain a lot of phytic acid. So I'm going to have to put a big X on the beans. How big of a deal? Also, Pythagoras said you shouldn't eat beans. They contain the souls of people. How big of a deal do you think we should take BPA and atrazine? Well, I don't know too much about atrazine. I know BPA is a problem. I think it's a very big deal. I think that's possibly the biggest deal of all is the materialists believe that our psychology is purely a product of chemicals, that we are literally just chemicals. Like we don't have souls. We're not spiritual beings. We are just chemicals. If that's true, then the only thing we should really care about in this world before everything else is what chemicals are going into our body. Are these chemicals making us depressed? Are they making us out of whack? What are the effects of these chemicals? And foods essentially are a drug. They are a chemical. They contain chemicals and molecules that affect your hormonal levels in your body. So I think this is probably the most important question of all. The fact that on the one hand, we're promoting materialism, and on the other hand, we're caring less and less about, the foods that we're eating is a big contradiction, that one of the biggest contradictions of all. So if I had power, I would do something about it, but I'm never going to have power. So I can just tell people in their personal lives not to drink out of plastic and things of that nature. Beans are chock full of phytoestrogens, probably true. We need to eat beets, locusts, and wild honey. I don't know about eating locusts, but beets and honey are good. Simple fact, she has no end game should tell you that she's a plant. I don't know, because she's been a Democrat for a while. I have intel on her that you were not privy to. Oh, well, we have someone with intel in the chat. Big guy with big intel here. Not surprised if Fed posts under the pseudonym Dr. Nuts. Yeah, I don't know the statistics that Mr. Gudam is bringing up. I don't know where those come from, but like sickle cell anemia, maybe that kind of thing. Population genetics, I don't know. I haven't studied it. X is a plant is not a meaningful statement. I'm a plant. Yeah, I'm a big plant. You are what you eat. So I am an onion. Hold up, man. Don't be saying I'm a Fed. That is dangerous. I am not a Fed. I love beans except for pork and beans. Well, then you're definitely a Fed. If you don't like pork and beans, but you like just plain beans, you are indeed a Fed, because the only time beans are good is when it's pork and beans. Joe Agamemnon Biden, true. Bush baked beans, gross, but they do taste good, but they do have that lovely corn syrup there. I see something in the chat I'm about to read. What we should all care about is total mastery of chemicals. Do you endorse the use of antidepressants? I do not endorse the use of antidepressants. I think you should do everything possible in your life to address your depression in non-chemical ways. I think it is criminal the way, because I've been through this process where you go to the doctor and you're just like a little wee lad, and the doctor's like, "We have all kinds of chemicals here. Would you like to try some?" And it's like, I'm a child. I don't think I should really even be. I mean, look, if there is a correct, right decision to make here, then you just be like, look, you have a medical problem, here's the medical solution. But the fact that it's like, oh, would you like to transition? Would you like some antidepressants? Here, we can screw up with your hormonal system. You have a problem. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your parents. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your environment. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your lack of exercise. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your lack of friends. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your lack of community. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your lack of religion. Certainly, that has nothing to do with your lack of belief in God. Certainly, that has nothing to do with the lack of higher purpose. Certainly, I can keep going on here. And they're like, oh, certainly none of those things are factors. Certainly, what you need is antidepressants that will solve your situation. And then they say, but watch out because you could become suicidal, and watch out because it could kill your sex drive. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? Maybe we should be careful about this. Instead, like 30% of women in their lifetime will take antidepressants. It's in the water supply at this point. So I'm totally against antidepressants. I think if you're depressed, you need to spend time in nature. You need to spend 5 hours in the middle of the night walking through a forest. You need to be exercising every day. You need to make an effort to make friends. You need to be doing purposeful, meaningful work. You need to be in the world. You need to be striving. You need to be doing stuff. And if you feel so apathetic about everything, you don't even care to help yourself or change yourself, you need to join the military or find someone and follow that person who makes demands of you. And so I found people who would basically yell at me and say, "Hey, here's what we need to do." And that's effective as well. If you're apathetic, but you can find someone you respect or fear, who's going to be like a captain over you, Plato's captain. He's going to be someone like a drill sergeant and tell you what to do. That's one way to get out of that slump there and start to form some healthy habits. But I think it is true. The ancient Greeks recognized that melancholy is a type of personality that some people are more melancholic than others. And certainly, I think Northern Europeans have a problem with melancholy and depression relative to other populations. So, there is a chemical basis for it. But that just means you need to try it. Depression is not random. Depression is not like a disease. Depression is a sign that you need something deeper in life than the superficialities that entertain other people. If you're depressed, that means you're not satisfied with the emptiness of the world around you. That means you need to go deeper. You need to go deeper into spirituality. You need to go deeper into your animal nature, your spiritual nature, whatever. You need to go deeper than the superficiality that's presented to you. You need to start reading philosophy. You need to start being in your body and being physical. The idea, to me, this whole drug solution, oh, I'm sad, so I'm going to smoke weed. I'm sad, so I'm going to have antidepressants. I'm anxious, so I'm going to take Xanax, whatever. And maybe I just messed up. Maybe if you're anxious, you take weed. And if you're, you need to concentrate, you take Xanax. I don't know what all the drugs do. But just in a general sense, just I have a problem, a drug is a solution. It always has side effects. It never seems to truly address the root problem, which always seems to be spiritual in nature to me. So I don't endorse antidepressants. Beans are good. What does Pythagoras know? Weird cultist. Well, they're full of xenoestrogens. They are men who were cursed by witches and have to eat the souls of humans to live their lives. After the soul eater devours a victim soul, the victim disappears as dust. I'm not a Fed. That's exactly what a Fed would say. I have a friend named Arvel. We don't always get along, but I try to be his friend. But again, e-drama can be more than I can handle sometimes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, then again, friendship is a two-way street. So I can't just as I can't say I'm Nick Fuentes' friend because maybe he doesn't like me. I can't unilaterally declare to be someone's friend. So that's not a possibility. But I would say the rest of it, I would say that's true. We don't always get along. I did try to be his friend, and e-drama was more than I could handle, and I wanted to take a break. And that is the end of that, I suppose. I wish you guys would stop calling me a fed. Oh boy. Do you endorse heavy drinking as a solution to depression? No. They tried to SSRI me as a teen. I took them for a while, but eventually wised up, started throwing them in the garbage. Poor gut bacteria can increase autism and depression. Zoloft, probiotic enemas are the most effective way. Okay. Yeah, I think Hector was talking about that. Fecal transplant. Oh boy. It's criminal how many children, particularly boys, get doped on amphetamines by doctors in elementary school. It's hard to be satisfied with the world around you. So much evil. That is true. Well, we're going to end it on the note of fecal transplant. There, we're going to end the stream. A nice, productive onion eating stream. Beautiful, healthy, wonderful onion ASMR stream. Very successful, very lovely. Let's see. There were some comments on DLive. Buffering really bad. Best to do it on YouTube. Ken burrowing around Brown. You have an aesthetic sensibility of a rodent. Sad. Oh, that's a very negative chat from Pilgrim Pete. Very sad, insulting chat comparing me to a rodent to end the live stream. Thank you, Pilgrim Pete. That makes me feel so good. I had to delete some of my old friends. It was one of my New Year's resolutions. Friends are like elevators. They can take you up or down. That's true. Can we have a sample of your fecal gut bacteria? No, thank you. How very American. Yeah, well, that is the end. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating in this wonderful adventure. We got 24 live viewers. We got 15 thumbs up. So obviously, eating onions not as popular as a structured stream. Unfortunately, we got to end it. If you want to see more Mr. Nuts or Dr. Nuts, you got to rewind the stream and rewatch it because we're done. Because that's the end. Cheers. Take care. See ya. Bye-bye.